And welcome to another episode of DIOTALK. I'm Leo. Let's talk. My guest of the evening is an actress, executive director, everything to do with film. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Lisa Tobias. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor. It's an honor. You're in a brand new film coming out this month, the 25th.
Yes,
May is it May? Am I
yes,
pronouncing
May 25th.
it? May 25th. Bonds of Grief.
Yes.
I had the honor of being privileged, one of the people early privileged to watch it. Uh your role is astonishing. I love it. You did a such a compelling work of art. But it's not just that. You had I'm sorry, it excites me. You had some incredible lines, which I will quote later on as we discussed. But other than that, how are you? And
Oh,
thank you for joining me
thank
today.
you. Thank you. I'm well. This project was really close to my heart. I didn't have anything to do with the writing of it, but I have never played a character whose life experience is so close to mine.
Um,
Um, in the film, my character is grieving the loss of her mom, and it's been several years since my character's mom has passed, and I lost my own mother just about 11 years ago.
wow.
So I'm just similar, in to the character in many ways, but I also wanted to make my character Samantha's experience different than mine because you have to do that.
Yes.
So um yeah, I love working with Zay and my scene partner Zuli, who plays Isabella, and I actually met last year on another one of Zay's projects before the breakup. We didn't actually have any scenes in it,
Mm.
but we just like connected instantly and have been really good friends ever since. So it was a joy to work with her. Zay would say cut, and we would just go right on from being, Samantha and Isabella to being Lisa and Zuli, and it was very seamless because we were, it's very very autobiographical for both of us.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I get that. Like you're in the film, you guys' chemistry. You guys work so well that everything was so fluid. Like your character connected so much. It's like if you're just having a conversation with your best friend. That's how it
Yeah,
felt watching it.
we're yeah, and Zuli and I are, we're very good friends, and we would one of the things that we would do is because it was some of the locations where we filmed were a little bit further, so we carpooled. So I said, Zuli, why don't you come over and we'll have sort of like, a brunch beforehand. So we called it rehearsal brunch, and
Oh,
we
that's
would run
nice.
our lines, and we're like, well, we're going to do this a little bit later, but so it just really kind of helped inform our scenes. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing to work with.
Yes. Was it because I know like this character you play resembles a lot to what you're going through in real life. Was it difficult to tap into that? And because you're almost like reliving real life what occurred has occurred in the past.
Um, I think, my grief over my mom has informed absolutely everything I've done. She actually passed from Alzheimer's. So even though she passed 11 years ago, I had, about 15 years to kind of mourn her.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's informed every aspect of my life. I mean, I don't think I would have returned to acting. I don't know if I would have if it hadn't been for her passing. So no, I mean, I think it's part of the process. And I knew right away when I read the script that I wanted to dedicate my performance to my mom. Um, and I decided with Samantha's backstory, which we get in glimpses, we get in scenes when she's, talking to Izzy about, Izzy's mom, and then
Mhm.
Samantha will make a comment. I wanted to make Samantha's experience with her mom, because Samantha, you know, Samantha was in a really dark place when her mom died, and you get those, moments in the script. So I wanted to, different from my mother, who, it was a very long goodbye. I felt Samantha's mother, was a real rock in her life, but passed very unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And it just threw her for, so many loops that it took her, it's taken her years to really recover, but she's been able to do that. So I wanted to make that, that different for me, and create a different backstory. What I never expected is that just a couple days before filming, my best friend passed away unexpectedly.
Oh no, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Yeah, I was shocked. So that the scene in the cemetery, where I'm comforting Izzy, I literally had learned 2 days before that my best friend was dead. And I was just in that very numb stage of grief. And I was thankful to be able to, go to work and to be able to perform. And so I've also dedicated my performance to my best friend as well.
Wow.
Because she was a producer. She gave me my first job in front of the camera years ago. And
Wow.
I'm like, I really, she would want me to be here and not sitting at home, crying over her. But I'm like, this is just so ironic that I'm, doing a film about grief, and it's, reminding me of my mom, but it's helping me to process my grief over my friend. So, yeah, it's been just about 2 months since she passed away, and it's just, it's just such an ironic thing to be making a film about grief and then grieving deeply in my own life.
No, and they're like, what's crazy is that you're going through that, and you're in the film, you're that support system.
Oh yeah.
You have
Yeah.
this amazing, you have two amazing lines. You have an amazing line that says something, and I'm quoting, right? I'm paraphrasing. He says, grief is just love with nowhere to go."
Yes.
Oh
Grief.
man, I when you
Help
said
people.
that, that's like, oh, which is a
Yeah.
great line.
Yeah. And sometimes people are really afraid to let go of their grief because they're afraid they're going to let go of the love.
Mm,
And they're afraid of the person. And that's not the case,
mm,
I think, at my friend's uh, service before her burial, they talked about, she left a legacy. She left legacies with each of us. What's your legacy? And I'm like, well, this is a legacy that she left me. This is, she supported me always, in my choice to be an actress. And I can honor her through that. Um, but I have a young friend who was in college and her boyfriend was killed in a car accident. And she just could not let go of the grief and the pain. And she finally got a tattoo and in his memory. And because that was, put, on her body, that was inked in her body, she was able to let go and move forward and heal, because that way she felt he's always with her. And whatever it takes to move through that and move on, move forward. And, I mean, I carry my mom, with me. I mean, I carry her in my DNA and my heart and my memories. I can share my stories with my son. I mean, I have her pictures. I even have some of her writing. So, but grief doesn't end. It just, you live with it. And
mm.
then once you have one devastating loss and you begin to heal from that, you realize the next loss, brings up all that grief again. And it's a different kind. And but yeah, this film just, I think it's going to resonate with many people because there's so many different kinds of grief that we experience, so many different kinds of losses. And, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a grandparent, whether it's, you've seen like the loss of intimacy, that, that a couple of the characters feel. It is a loss. And it is to be grieved. And, one person's loss, it may be devastating, like my mother's. I mean, it changed the course of my life. We had to sell our home and my childhood home because they were next to each other. So it changed everything for me. And, I think it played a role in, beneficially in my ending my marriage. And I think it's just, it completely changed my life. My loss of my best friend, it's not going to change where I live, what I do. It just means that I don't get to talk to her every day or text with her. So, and, it's just all relative to each person. So, no grief is more or less important. And I think that's what I loved about the support group is we each had a chance to share, some really, and to share the burden, I think, and to just know that, we're not alone. And honestly, that's the most important thing is, not to let grief isolate you.
What inspired you to start acting?
Oh, you know what? Okay, so I have been performing since I was 3, and I was in a ballet class when I was 3, and we had a recital, and I had this pretty little pink, or not pink, it was a blue tutu with the sequins on and everything, and we had this recital, and I forgot the whole dance routine, didn't do any of it. But I walked right down center stage and the lights were on and there was an audience. And I was just like, I just smiled. I'm like, this is it. This is where I want to be. So then I started really, taking classes and performing, throughout middle school, high school, college. And I just, it was just where I found myself, at home and happiest. It's what clicked for me. It's what I understood. I had a tremendous teacher, acting teacher. I went to an all-girls school. So I had her like 6th grade through 12th grade. And she had been a Broadway actress herself. And she taught us, like the old school way to do things. And not everybody does that, how to create character and everything. And it just, how to direct and everything. And a lot of people don't do that for film anymore, but being able to draw on the different methods that there are out there because each character is so different to create. So yeah, and then it was something I always wanted to continue, but I went into the corporate world and got married, had my son, and my son happens to be on the autism spectrum. He's very high functioning.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. Oh, how old?
7, nonverbal.
You know what? Mine was nonverbal till he was 3. But we had all of the supports from the school district and the county. And so he went to public school. Yeah, it's so important, all of the early intervention. And then it was just really interesting because he was talking, starting to talk at 3 and 4. Got him in, once he got to 1st grade, they offered Spanish. In addition, I'm like, well, I don't know. He just started speaking English. Oh no, he took right off with his Spanish. Yeah. Like who? So that, and there's so many wonderful ways to communicate now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't have iPads when he was little. My son's 24 now.
Wow, God bless. I'm still struggling with the school system, and it's been a hardship with that.
Yeah. I mean, and every school district is different. We were very lucky to happen to live in one that was very, forward thinking, and just really like was prepared for my son. But yeah, he was ended up on gold honor roll and ended up with a big award.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, he graduated from college. He even did a semester in Madrid. Um, and
Nice.
yeah, I mean, and he actually studied radio, film, and television production, Spanish, creative writing. So like there's no, and he works now and he's actually a producer on Bonds of Grief too.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, yeah. So there's no, I mean, I just say the sky is the limit. What one part of the brain is learning, the other part may be, quieter. So it's just finding the best fit for your child and finding ways to ease that communication barrier, whether it's sign language, whatever it is. I mean, some of the things I learned from communicating with my son, my mother became nonverbal, which was a shock because she had been a language professor. So I would bring her children's books and I would have her point things to me. I would say, where's the bunny? She could show it to me. She couldn't say it, but I would say, show me this, show me the flower, show me the garden, and she was able to identify, and it made her so happy that she gave me a hug. I mean, she hadn't been able to interact with anyone. So it just that, yeah. So it's, I took what I could and I gave that to her there. So yeah, I mean, just do not give up hope. And, your son knows you're there and you're there for him. And just keep working with the school district and the school and, get an IEP if you do not have one. That's
Yeah.
really important.
I
Um,
mean, right now, we have all that right now. It's just we're trying to we don't the schools in my area are not qualified or educated in um trying to assist children with autism. There's just there's
okay.
just like I'm a journalist. So I get down, research, call,
Yep.
conversate, dissect conversations, and this is no shade to them, but the truth is they have nothing to offer, to assist, to help, to
Right.
support.
Exactly. They don't have the resources.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know if you can. We actually have, like, there are schools you can petition if the public school doesn't have what you need.
Hmm.
You can ask for them. They should be able to cover the tuition at a school that does.
That's what I'm
Is that
me and
where
my
you
wife,
are?
that's where we are right now. We're lawyers, just because we gotta prepare ourselves.
You do. Yes.
We gotta
Yes.
prepare ourselves. It is a tedious uh experience,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but that's where
Yeah.
we are right now. God willing, everything turns out great, but
I wish you all the best
thank
because
you.
as they say, if you've met one person on the autism spectrum, you've only met one person on the spectrum. Every person is so different,
Yes.
and it has no bearing on intelligence. I mean, it just doesn't. Like you can be, brilliant and be on the autism spectrum. Like
Hmm.
people think of like Rain Man and being an
Hmm.
autistic savant. That's not the case. You
Hmm.
can also have a very low IQ and be on the autism spectrum. They're not, it
Hmm.
doesn't, not one or the other or both. It's just, or people think, oh, if they're on the spectrum, there's a hidden talent. That's not necessarily true.
Hmm.
So you have to find what is the best for your son and the best. And he may always be nonverbal, you know, but there may be other ways that he can communicate.
Hmm.
And that's really, or he may be, great to take care of himself and know exactly what to do, but just, again, not really verbal. Um,
I think
so
I think he has uh he has a lot of potential. It's just everything is just work.
yeah,
Everything just work. One thing that I've noticed, like with children with autism, like because I also have a nephew. He's in Florida. He's 14 years old, and they're not, there might not be a hidden talent, but they're super intellectual. And one thing that I stumbling upon this the IEP and sitting
Mhm.
where these teachers and psychologists, whatever, through their I noticed through their template, where they consider a high IQ, low IQ, uh somebody that can't speak or read, it's essentially not bright.
And that's not
Yeah,
the case at
and
all.
exactly. Exactly. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, my son has a slower processing speed,
mhm.
but that's because when he processes something, he looks at it from so many different angles. And when he
Yes.
comes back with an answer, it might be, a bit later. Like you or I would come back with like, oh yeah, 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 I totally had. No,
Mhm.
I'm just like, if you want some time to think about it, he'll come back to me with this incredibly well thought out response, like something that you or I wouldn't even think of how perfectly it makes sense
Mhm.
and how he's considered so much in it, and
Mhm.
he's always been like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, maybe he processed it, took him a longer time to process it, but the level and the depth at which he processed it is astounding.
Mhm.
Most
It's
people don't.
it's like it's like with them, it's everything has to be what is this word? Everything has to be logical because they're like my son, he suffers from anxiety, high sensory,
Yeah,
he's on the go. So on the outside, everything is going, fast and just uncontrollable. But when they're thinking, it has to mean something. It has to the logic
yeah,
has to be there for them to
yeah,
process it. If it's not there, they're gonna look at you like you have three eyes,
yeah.
like three heads, But it's amazing. It's I guess I will say this is like I think that's my grieving process, and we're like, if he doesn't speak, like I wish just to have a conversation with him,
Yeah.
and
It's
where you know.
yeah, it's the hope and the possibility of everything, when you have your child and you hope, oh my gosh, I have all of these hopes and dreams for my child, and even things that you take for granted, like having a conversation.
Hmm.
And my gosh, it's like, what if I can't do that?
Hmm.
Or, what if my child can't live independently from me?
Hmm.
Or, or like, I mean, it's just things like that. And yeah, those are things to grieve. And people don't talk about that. And, people take for granted, oh, my child's going to do this or this or this. And, or I mean, I remember when my son was little and all his friends were talking, and I'm like, well, mine's not saying anything, and I'm like, I've just got to let go of that and just, and know that like he's hopefully he will talk. And when he
Hmm.
did talk, he started speaking in sentences. It
Yes.
wasn't any of the babble. It was like he had to have a reason to say it. And he just looked, he was sitting in his tub and he looks up at me, he goes, Mommy, water goes down the drain. I was like, okay, that's amazing. So yeah, I mean, it just but yeah, I understand that completely because you think you just take for granted that your child is going to be neurotypical, and that they're just going to be like all the other kids are on the block, and
Yeah,
they're different. And I mean, for me, he's my only child, so
mine too. So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah, I don't know any different. This is my
yeah,
child, so
yeah.
I don't have any other child to compare him to. And I'm like, well, he's mine.
Hmm.
So, and he's, I mean, he's always just, had a very sweet and loving personality. So I mean, he's, and just, even when he didn't talk, he would always laugh at stuff. Like I remember we would watch Stuart Little and he would always laugh at Stuart. He thought he was the funniest mouth. So, I mean, it's just he was understanding. he just didn't have anything to say about it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, if he can acknowledge you and acknowledge what you're saying, that's, that I think that's the safest thing, because sometimes even somebody who's normal doesn't have a lot to say, or
Exactly.
like, and that's okay, and that's okay. One of the things when I talk to parents with children with autism is like, you know, they quickly feel like, and I had this conversation with this gentleman, Moish Tosh. He started his foundation called Joy Do Foundation, where he helps adults with autism uh develop skills so they could go out and work and find
Yeah.
it, right? And one thing that we was talking about is that when they have this perspective is like they're diagnosed with autism, that's it. That's it.
And that's not actually, and several people I know, and it's interesting because um, girls get diagnosed much later than boys.
Hmm.
And they're like, oh, thank God we finally got, and they like in their 20s. And they're like, we find this makes sense. They're like, we we have autism. And they're like, this makes sense. But yeah, and it's like, yeah, I mean, even when my son was diagnosed, I mean, people were like, oh my God. I'm like, no, it's just not the plague. I'm like,
Hmm.
he's on the autism spectrum. That means he qualifies for services.
Hmm.
That means we know how to go, we have a way forward, right?
Hmm.
As opposed to being diagnosed with ADHD or something. Now we have a diagnosis. Now we know, now we can begin, what we need to do. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Exactly.
Yeah, and keep pushing forward. All right. I
Exactly.
love the fact that you said he was a producer for this film.
Yes.
That's totally
Yeah.
amazing. How was
Yeah.
it? Like, was he there when they were filming your scenes?
No, but he helped me run lines and he overheard me running them many times. He heard me talking about the film. And we would just we zoomed a couple times with say. So yeah, he was at work unfortunately when we had to film. So but yeah, I mean, I think he was just really excited because that was sort of what he studied. And um yeah, so
How did you? I want how like the film is so. I feel like, in my opinion, we need more of these films like this, because we are in a state in time and where there's a lot of mental health. There's a lot of things going on that um not everyone is like your character, that's supportive. To take your time and be there for somebody. We don't. I honestly believe we don't believe in that world. Um, and I feel like films like these, because they're not aimed to profit, right? That is not a moneymaker, it's not a blockbuster. They quickly discard them in the industry. But I honestly feel like we need more films like this to digest. It's almost like accountability. We have to
well,
go through this. We have to, like, in order you to get there and be okay, we have to go through it.
yeah, I think it's very cathartic. And I think, especially with the group scene, I think people can really find somebody to identify with
Hmm.
and just to really, you know, just say, yeah, I know what that person's going through. I understand that's my experience. And I do think people don't um, give themselves time to grieve now, or
Hmm.
even know where to begin or where to find support. I mean, I'm fortunate I have my friends, and yes, I do have a wonderful therapist, which is, very cool. Well, and I think too, I mean, I've lost my mom, I've lost my grandmoms.
Gone through a
So
lot.
yeah, but they were my sounding board. I don't have that. Since I don't have that, I'm like, well, I mean, I would discuss stuff with my mom or discuss stuff with my grandmoms, but I needed that person in my life.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
now, besides my friends, I have a therapist who
Yeah.
fills that role of, okay, you know let's bounce some ideas
Yes.
off of, and
Yes.
let's talk through this. And and then that's, a guaranteed support system. But I think it is very important to not to know that you're not alone in your grief. And I'm at the age where, most of my friends have lost, one parent or both parents, siblings. So, and it's, or they're taking care of parents, like I took care of my mom. And it's not easy. I mean, it is very, it is very draining. It is very hard. And, until you've been there, people don't really talk about it. And and they don't take care of their mental health.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't. And then, when I was taking care of my mom and my son was young, and it was a lot. And
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
like they say, put your oxygen mask on first before someone else's. And you kind of have to do that. And I think that was probably the case with Samantha, is that she didn't do that. And
Mhm.
she just was, just not fit to do anything for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
Finally, what? Yeah.
I like the fact that in your personal life you had elders, which is so important because you have that support. Like that's another thing I feel like we're missing in today's modern society. Everyone is so young, or everyone it's older, but haven't touched even the surface of their intellectual potential and experience, right? And
Oh,
where
yeah.
you need people to have conversations,
Oh, yeah.
especially meaningful ones.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, now we're always texting each other,
Oh
not
my
really
God.
picking up the phone. I mean, it's great. It is
Mhm.
very helpful. But, that was what I missed about my best friend, is she would pick up the phone and call, like, sometimes every day, sometimes every couple days. And, but yeah, I mean, I was lucky. I grew up with my mom, my grandmom living next door to me.
Mhm.
And then I moved into her little house, and that's where I raised my son, next door to my parents. So, we lived like that as a family for many years, and a lot of people don't have that. So, for 12 years, my son grew up next door to his grandparents.
Nice.
Um, yeah, yeah. So, I think that that's really important. And my grandmom was also an actress too. She was
Oh,
an artist and a
wonderful.
writer.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, and so she was always very encouraging and supportive.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. No, when I decided to, come back, I was like, my background was stage. I did do some stage, but I'm like, I think I want to, do film. And I think, what I love about film is that, you know, so many people can watch it. It's so accessible.
Yes.
Whereas stage, you have 100-person theater and you run 6 nights. Only 600 people will ever see that show, right? That's it. But with film, it lives on, and people can watch something, they did from a few years ago. People can watch something I did from last year.
Yes.
And like, Bonds of Grief. I mean, I don't know, you know, where that will end up, but people will still be able to watch it and access it. And, hopefully they'll find some comfort from it.
Yes. And inspire
Yeah.
others, like
Yeah.
it's I find this so realistic what you're saying about theater because once the show is done, it's done.
Not, which
Uh,
is awesome too,
you
but
know,
and having a live audience, but I just really, I love the perpetuity of film.
yes. I agree. No, you're speaking volumes of truth. But like even in these platforms, you have so many different platforms you can upload and seek a new audience never before seen before. So
Yeah.
there's so much room for potential in it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's, and yeah, I mean, and you can, with this, like you can have people, from all over the world see it. So
Hmm.
which is what I love. I mean, when I'm not performing, I work at a local botanical garden. And when COVID hit, we thought, oh my gosh, we have to, close until we can open up and do things safely. But one of the things that came out of that was we have a third Thursday lecture series, and
Mm.
we do that all virtually. And we have people that tune in from all over the world now,
Wow.
and that would never have a chance to come visit our little local garden. So we've been able to reach well beyond, just, the Philadelphia area, we've been able to reach people, in so many more places. So
Yes, yes.
yeah. So, I mean, I think that that's what our platforms can do. And I think that that's something that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Is there any genre that you enjoy doing more than others?
I love doing it's really about the character. I mean, I'm very character driven. So the last film that I did that just came out is called Karen Begins, and I
Mm.
play a Karen, and I even have the wig, and it was hilarious to play. Zay was the cinematographer for that, and oh my god, it was just such a blast to play her. She's a very physical character, just obnoxious. She finally does figure out how, she's like, in the end, she finds her happiness.
I
No,
definitely gotta see
yeah,
that.
nobody ever asked her what made her happy. And she's
Mhm.
just, well, I always wanted to dance. And then she's cured of being an obnoxious girl. But I mean, that was just so much fun in its own way because I actually did the audition with my son and I based it off of someone that we knew in real life that was really,
Oh
really
man.
awful. And I scared him. He's like, oh my God. So, but that was, I mean, that was ridiculous
Fun.
rock
It's your
comedy.
living, it's fun.
Yeah, but I was so drawn to Samantha and knowing, that I would be working with Zuli and just from conversations we've had, in real life, I was just very drawn to her. I mean, I'm generally a nurturing person and I really felt Samantha is too. And just she's like a phoenix. Like she's just
Rising
risen
from the
from the
ashes.
ashes. Yeah. And she's, willing to, go back and help pull someone through the fire and help them to rise, from their own ashes.
No,
Um,
I agree. I agree.
yeah.
Her
Yeah.
role, it's your role was such a it served as a bridge to tell a story, right? Like and when in the scene when you're at the graveyard, right? You're saying that grief is like a ball and you put inside a box, and every time it touches the walls, you cry, and it keeps going and keeps going till it gets smaller. Like
Yeah.
these there's so many hidden gems and meaning. Like I know I posted that. I was like it sends so many messages.
Oh yeah. And also that was just an interesting speech for me because I'm kind of trying to like explain this, metaphor. Um, okay. But I'm also trying to comfort her and check in for her understanding at the
Mhm.
same time. So I'm not trying to be really lyrical, like it's like a ball inside of a box. What it's like, okay? Just imagine a ball inside of a box, right? So, and then it's, going around and so yeah, I mean, and that makes perfect sense too. I mean, it really does. But yeah, that was just, and it was just, and then, she just was, she was so heartbroken. And so I just, I wanted to comfort her too. But kind of, yeah,
It's
yeah.
tough. It's her story and her mom in the movie. It's tough.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
tough. I can't remember for Sullivan, the actress that played Suli's mother. Um,
Eileen. Yeah.
she did an amazing job. Her transformation, like if like I'm not sure it's because at that time I was watching on my phone and I was putting my son to sleep. You know how just the kids never want to go to sleep. So
Yes.
I'm here, just rubbing his back and I'm watching it. And I'm not sure it's because I'm there with my son and I'm a dad, and
Yeah.
just that
Oh,
parental, feeling.
yeah, it's a very, very deep connection. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
That's that very primal, parent-child feeling.
And shout out to Zay. I was talking to somebody and I told them this movie, it's independent, low budget, and it was great. It has some knickknacks, yeah, but the cinematography was amazing. Imagine if he had actually had money to produce, good cameras to actually produce the content needed. Like he's an amazing cinematographer. Like shout
We
out to him.
Frank do that. I mean, we
And
had
Frank as well. Yes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we were able to like rather than shoot it on an iPhone, like we were able to get it on. Frank was
Brooklyn
able to get
Canal.
it.
Shout out to him too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, that's what we did with, I mean, and we, you know, I worked hard to fundraise to get
Yeah, I
what
remember that. I saw that.
it was my first time executive producing too. So that was exciting. It was, it was I love being in on making decisions.
Involved, getting
Yeah,
it done. Yeah.
yeah, I really love, and working with Zay is a dream. But I just really, I'd taken during COVID, I'd taken a certificate program at NYU Tisch in production because that was an
Okay.
area that I wanted to go into a little bit because when you're an actor, you kind of need to have like a bit of everything. But I
Hmm.
really wanted to get that, and I hadn't gotten a chance to use my production skills yet, and I'm just like,
Nice.
I think this is where I want to use them. So it was just, yeah, it's exciting to do that. And then to have us, premiere in a movie theater is
Oh man, that's one. I wish I could be there, but
yeah, oh
you
yeah.
guys are in Philly. I'm in New Jersey.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but no, I think it's gonna be amazing. It just it's really good. I can't continue to express how good it is, right? I like a couple of 6 months ago I lost my grandfather from
I'm oh,
Alzheimer.
it's so
Two
hard.
2 years ago, like I lost my grandmother. Like she raised me from a child, and like
Oh yeah.
I've I've never been able to, I'm a very stoic person. I pick shit up and put it down. Like I don't, emotions are really, difficult for me to portray. But if I would have something like this in those difficult times, right, like I think I would be a little bit more advanced in where, grieving process, acceptance and all that stuff. I'll be a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, no, and sometimes it just takes seeing someone just kind of seeing a story and saying, oh wait, I can relate to that. Okay.
Mhm.
It's in ancient Greece, in ancient Greek theater, they would have people go, it was used as medicine. So you would go and see a tragedy and
Mhm.
you would get, you would grieve and you would, I mean, some of those are just
Mhm.
devastating and heartbreaking. And then you would also go and see a comedy. And then you would also you have laughter as your medicine. And that was how theater, 500 BC was used
Mhm.
to help people. And we're doing the same, with our film. It's not, it isn't really that much different. And sometimes it takes, it helps for people to see something visually. Or just like with children's stories, there's usually something that the children, they can relate to
Yes.
and it helps them to learn by saying, oh, okay, this, like in this story, there was like the naughty animal. And
Mhm.
so you don't want to be like this one, or
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the one that did the right thing. And, it's the social stories, I guess is
Mhm.
what.
Mhm.
So, or, like on Sesame Street, like you always, you'll have the different scenes and different skits and,
Yeah.
um, it helps, it helps tell a story and hopefully people can relate to it. And then, in this, hopefully it can um, break up the emotions,
Yeah.
but also know that there can be healing and resolution to them.
Yeah. You know what I liked in a nutshell, I enjoyed this film because it got back to life. It got back to life. There's no CGI or a big blockbuster. It tells a story and it's life. It's
It
life.
is. It is.
I can't make it more simple than that.
Yeah, no, and that's really in terms of, I mean, back to the question about like what kind of
Hmm.
genre do I prefer? I guess I could say just I prefer a more intimate genre like
Hmm.
this.
Yes.
Um, and so that's just, I mean, in terms of theater, that's what I would always do rather than, I mean, I have performed on big giant stages, but I much prefer a small, intimate theater.
Yes.
And yeah, that's just more, I think, where I can be most effective. Although, who's to say I couldn't do a crazy CGI Karen either. So,
No,
but Samantha CGI wouldn't work
yeah.
unless she was some kind of a gentle creature, a gentle angelic being.
Got
But
it. No, but listen, I think this film open ups new avenues, new opportunity. I think like I mentioned in my post, like there's so much potential in acting in this film, so much potential in having a vision to what's coming next. And I, you'll see on the 25th what I'm saying. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it.
oh, thank you so much. Well, thank you for watching, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
It's
it's
been
an honor.
a
It's an honor
pleasure to
having
talk
all of
to
you.
you. Yes. Yeah, well, and I wish you luck with your son.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Feel free to DM me
Will do. Will
if
do.
you yeah, I'm always here to talk. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
thank you so much.
Before we go, please tell the people out where they can find you.
Sure, you can find me on Instagram. I do have a private account, but you can request to friend me. It's at Tobias underbar Lisa underbar Elena. Elena is spelled Elena. So you can find me there. You can find me on Facebook at Lisa Tobias, and let's see. You can also find a couple of films of mine on YouTube. You can find Before the Breakup, and Zulia is also in that with me. That's at Junito Studios, or you can also just look me up, Lisa Tobias, Before the Breakup. And I actually got a Best Supporting Actress nomination for that, and we won
There
Best
you
Global
go.
for. Yep.
There you go. Congrats.
Yes, you can also watch me in Karen Begins, which just came out last month, again at Junito Studios. So thank you so much for having me.
It's an
And
honor having you. Thank you for being here.
you're most welcome.
Make sure to go follow me. Make sure to go follow her, support her, show her some love. And make sure to go follow me on Instagram, Mr.DreamSpireObtain. Go check me out, DIOTALK TV. Like and subscribe our YouTube channel. All episodes are uploading at on my Facebook page, Mark King Diaz. Go check out my new merch at DreamInspireObtain.com. I'm out, guys. Bye.
Bye.
I'm out, guys. Have a good night.